Good evening, and thank you once again for joining another Total Transformation seminar. Tonight, we're going to be looking at the world of online and web opportunities. We know that the internet can have very many positive attributes and can be very helpful to many aspects of our lives. But as well as the opportunities, we also know that there are various threats that the internet poses. And as a people, as citizens, we have to be very careful and be very mindful of some of these threats. So to help us with some of these issues, I'm really pleased to welcome our presenter this evening, Mark Palmer. And he has much experience in this area, and he'll be sharing some of that with us. I'd also like to welcome Clive Palmer, who will be moderating our meeting this evening. And as usual during the presentation, if you have any questions, please place them in the chat. We won't be able to take any live questions, but if you place them in the chat, Clive will pick them up and he'll be able to present those questions to Mark. So I hope you enjoyed tonight's meeting, and I'll hand over now to our moderator, Clive.
Thank you, Leroy, and good evening, everyone. I'm not sure what week number this is in terms of the transformation series. It's got to be at least, what, week 5, maybe, Leroy? Am I about right? Week 5. And as Leroy has said, tonight's presenter is Mark Palmer. I think I know him reasonably well. Reasonably well.
Met you once somewhere.
Absolutely. I've met him a few times over the years. Yeah. Mark is an elder at the Wolverhampton Central Seventh-day Adventist Church. Long-standing elder. I think first elder at the moment, Mark. You are, yeah.
Your brother.
Thank you for the reminder, Sister Foster. Yeah. And I had to double check with Mark because we grew up in Wolverhampton a long time ago, and the whole family is involved in something of a public element. My sister is a social worker. My other sister works with vulnerable groups in Wolverhampton. The other is a midwife. My brother was in teaching, not as long as Leroy, I add. Yeah, but we've all come from a public background. And Mark, for the last 14 years, has worked within children and health, that arena. Currently, he works as a therapeutic social worker, and quite an impressive line of activity that he's involved in are really important. You know, children are such an important commodity to our communities, and he currently works in the areas of health, cognitive behavior therapy, phobias, suicide awareness, depression, self-harm, with the focus being on children. And it's a bit concerning to think of all of those descriptors being things that we have to concern with our children. Mark works both with the health authority and with the local authority, where he actually works with children in foster care and obviously the parents who are fostering those children. He trains health and local authority staff in suicide and self-harm. And tonight, Mark's going to be speaking about both the positives and negatives of online activity, of the internet activity. I won't go into detail, won't steal his thunder in terms of what he covers. But as we probably already are aware, the internet is both for good and bad. And so Mark is going to give us a balanced picture of both some of the positives of the use of the internet and also, concerningly, some of the things that we need to be keeping ourselves and our children aware of and safe from. So without any further ado, I'll hand over to Mark.
Clive, thank you so much for your introductions, and also to Leroy and also Pastor Daniel. Thank you so much for the invitation to be here this evening to talk to ourselves, talk to us all regarding, as Clive rightly says, the issue of online protection, but online opportunities that we can gain in this very, very changing world. So I appreciate you all coming out tonight to sit for this seminar. And I hope that in some way I can give you some information that makes you think. In some cases, the information I'm going to share now is information that you may know already. But repetition is also important, helping us to be more alert and secure in what we're doing. But also maybe share some new information with you. As Clive says, I specialize working with children and young people in a variety of kind of psychiatric and local authority health and local authority work for a number of years now. So I've been given the opportunity to see a lot of things, get involved in a lot of things, and whatever I've learned over time, I will share with you. I'm no kind of cyberspace expert. I'm no Bill Gates. I'm not Microsoft or Dell or Kaspersky or anybody else like this. But I'm sharing what I've picked up over the years working with young people, and whilst I do various training courses in child protection, suicide protection work and so forth, then it's what we picked up over time. So we'll be here for about 20 minutes for this presentation. So by about 25 to 8, we'll be finished this presentation. And by all means, throw any questions in. If I can answer the questions, I will. If I can't, I won't flannel you and give you answers that I don't know about. I will try and find answers for you, but it's a bit interactive, and share your comments as well as your questions. They're much appreciated. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen first of all. Okay, it's on your screens. It's not on mine.
No, it just says auto save or something on the screen.
It's saying you're sharing your screen. So let me start again then. Which way is that coming on? Give me a second. Is it on now?
Yeah, you're on now. Yeah.
That's fine. Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Go to this. Okay, the world online. The world online. As all of us have been aware, over the last 30 plus years, when the internet first came into its foremost, we've seen a lot of changes in how people operate, how we do business, how we teach, how we buy goods. Everything has changed. Everything has gone online. And I first remember saying about www, a couple of my friends who were kind of computer techs talking about, Mark, have you surfed the web? I didn't understand what I meant by have I surfed the web, because surfing for me meant getting a big board and going in some river somewhere or a sea and surfing until they enlightened me. The world has changed drastically, and now we're at the place where the world lives almost online, an online service. What they state is that the number of people who are now connected to the internet is growing daily. And these figures are the figures for 2018. 1 million people per day will be connected to the internet. And as you know, the government are pushing last few years for every household in Britain and further afield to be internet connected, to be linked to the World Wide Web. So in 1 year, per day in 2018, there were 1 million people worldwide accessing or connected to the internet. On one hand, that's fantastic because we're in a different world. And in some cases, it gave rise to opportunities, but also with high tech and with anything new also brings in new threats. What are the benefits of the internet? And these you may know already. One, it's about information, knowledge, and learning. Throughout this COVID period, most of us have worked from home, and we've had the internet at our home to do our workplace, to do our work. Now, some months ago, we were told, in some companies, we were told you can't work from home. When March 2020 came, everything changed. And we thank God for the social media and for internet access where we can learn from home. Leah as a teacher, teach from home, and access a lot of information from a click of a button. Secondly, connectivity and communication and sharing. How we've seen so many people maybe in our care homes who have been socially isolated are being able to connect with their loved ones through iPads and different phones, FaceTime and so forth, to ensure that the communication between us and our loved ones have maintained. That also goes for our business world, for our educational world. Internet benefits. Mapping and addresses for in your phones today, you have your maps on your phone where you can just put an address in from here to Manchester, put it in and takes from A to B. So mapping information and good information as far as content information has been the best thing from the internet. How many of us are now very, very much involved in banking, paying our bills and shopping online? Over the last, say, 8 or 9 months, I have never seen so much Amazon boxes in my house. It's not me, it's my wife and my child. I've never seen so many boxes of internet from ASOS and Mr. Amazon coming through my door. Yet years ago, we go to High Street and pop into Topshop or pop into Debenhams or pop into Burton's and purchase our items. That's all changed. They've gone, and now the end thing is, can you purchase your items and do your shopping and do your banking through the internet? And finally, there's been a large growth, I'll show you shortly, of individuals selling and making money, and in some cases, scamming money out of people utilizing the internet. So this thing, the World Wide Web, the online services have had great benefits to all of us. And even for our church, whether in the church, within the community center, whether you are a student, you have gained from being on the internet. Opportunities, even through a pandemic. On the screen, we have here 8 individuals who have utilized the online services, the online web, to become online entrepreneurs. The lady in the first screen, she now has a florist organization. This lady here has just dressmaking. This lady here, so a lady down here, has created an online jewelry service. This young man here, he's one of 3 graduates who couldn't find work and now created a healthy eating snack food company through the internet. This man here has also created his own organization where he was once one of the general managers of Thompson, I think it's Thompson's Bike organization, and he's now with his wife running a successful online business, making cakes and building into a chocolate factory. I'll show you a quick clip. of this man.
Not seeing anything, Mark.
Oh, okay. Okay. Can you see the screen now? It's back on screen now?
No, it's still those 8 pictures that you had on before.
That's fine. Don't worry. I'll bypass the time anyway, because the time goes quickly. I'll bypass that. So I'm going to show you a quick video about this young man here who had basically created his own company. He had been furloughed by his agency as a general manager, but now he's now running with his wife a successful chocolate and baking company. So what we're trying to show you very quickly because of time is how the online services, how the online web can create new businesses. It may be a leap in the dark, but these 8, even over the COVID period, have created their own online services, online businesses, which are making a great impact in their particular field. So this has come through the online web. So a quick look here from the ONS statistics, and it shows the blue line, 2019. These were the number of new companies registered in the UK. Blue lines here. But look at the red line, which is last year. Now, from February to December, we're in the main role of our COVID period. But look what's happened. The amount of companies that have now been registered in the UK has gone from 11,503 to 13,257. And most of these companies are companies that operate through online services, online trading, online entrepreneurs. So despite the fact we're in a COVID period, this world of online development has created new entrepreneurs, created individuals who are not afraid to take a chance, and people now doing things off their own back. Some being furloughed, some have quit their jobs, some have made their hobbies into a business and a successful business. So even though the figures dropping down in December, this line registers quite a marked impact of the online services or online drivers to allow new companies to be registered in the UK. Quickly on time. So the threats is to be aware that your access to the outside world also means potential access of others to your personal inside world. So the outside world that you're now accessing can also be a potential threat to your inside world. First of all, what is online safety? Online safety is being aware of the nature of the possible threats that you could encounter whilst engaging in activity through the internet. These could be security threats, protecting and managing your personal data, online reputation management, and avoiding harmful or illegal content. Phishing, in a different way. Phishing is a cyber crime in which we target which a target or targets are contacted by email, telephone, or text message by someone posing as a legitimate institution or individual to lure individuals in providing sensitive data such as personal identifiable information, banking and credit card details and passwords. The information is then used to access important accounts and can result in identity theft and financial loss. 2 weeks ago, a young lady on the BBC 4, Radio 4, spoke about how she had been contacted by an individual stating to her that there was a parcel available for her at the post office. In short, she tapped on the information on her phone. I will make it quite clear to you. The online issues are not about a computer. It's about your iPad, your pad, your Samsung pad. It's about your telephone in your hand. Wherever you go, you are now being bombarded with information from a range of companies who have you at their fingertips. So young lady basically tapped into this post office request to pay for a parcel at the post office. As she went more and more into the email, it brought new and more information. Eventually, she received a telephone call from the person who was actually giving out the email address and asked her for her details. When they asked her name, then she called on the people who had been masking as post office individuals, professional individuals, legitimate individuals, were actually fishing for her and trying to find out her details. By the time she shut down that telephone call, she had already given over her details, and she lost in one day £40,000 out of her account. So you need to be careful about what details you share and who you're talking to when you press that link on your phone, on your iPad, or on your computer. So it's basically done by internet. It could put information from your bank, information through emails, information about your credit card. It's important that you realize that whilst you're accessing the outside world could also be accessing you directly. I had a phone call last week, email comes from Adidas last week, Adidas, saying to me that a quick survey about my use of Adidas, I buy Adidas training shoes. The information asked me 5 questions about marketing and so forth. And then said to me, if I press a certain button, I would want a pair of Adidas training shoes. I thought, wow, interesting. Then I paused for 1 second here. Why would Adidas suddenly pick me out of all the million people in the world to ask me about a survey about Adidas training shoes? And I do buy from them sometimes. And then I saw a scam in the whole process. I stopped sharing. I didn't say my bank details, thank the Lord. Hadn't done anything wrong, just come off straight away. It was too good to be true. And what they say to you, if a deal on your phone or on your computer or on your pad seems too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. Then we go on to online romances. Online romances. Now, there's some videos here that I won't share because of time, because I'm watching the clock very carefully. One of the biggest scams that they found this year, especially during the COVID period, are individuals looking for love. They may be widowed, never married, but with a girlfriend, and boyfriend. And what we're finding is that the amount of individuals who have been requested by going on online chat rooms to talk to individuals to find a new partner, and the amount of individuals being scammed is rising. For example, it states that this last 2 years ago stated that new warnings about romance scams have been issued after victims were conned out of more money than ever to online dating fraud, threatening losing more than £50,760,000. In 2018, Action Fraud received 455 reports of romance fraud, each of the victims losing an average of £11,145. So people are looking for love on the computer, but also the love rats are looking for you. And in many cases, looking for you, not for a romance, but to scam you out of your money. There's one lawyer last year, she's a lawyer, 18 months out of her relationship, 2 children, living in an idyllic part of the world. And she met a man in her area who said he was who he was. Purely pictures, and he just laden her with beautiful romantic statements about his background. He's working abroad in Turkey. He has a business across there, doing great lot of work. He'll be back in England very shortly when she'll meet up. Her heart's already broken by a previous romance that didn't go too well. So of course, looking for love. And this person looks legitimate from his pictures, from his words, from his presentation. He then, after 6 weeks, says to her, I need some help. My son is having some problems and he needs at least £3,000 to pay for medical treatment. Because in love with this man and he promised to the earth, sent the money. By the time she finished sending out an amount of money to this man, I think she sent out almost £200,000 to this man. He never turned up. She has a son and a daughter. The daughter goes to private school, never ever saw the money again. Because people get wrapped up in situations. And what happens, sometimes when we're on the screen, we say, don't talk to strangers, to our children, to ourselves, but we talk to strangers through a screen because the person isn't there and they really see them pull us in very quickly. I'll bypass the videos, unfortunately. So if you think you're talking to an online romance scammer, think about it very carefully. The person will claim avoidance, won't want to come to see you. They may ask you to move off your chat room, off the dating site and talk to you personally. They always seem to be in another country. Their profile is acting too good to be true. They ask you a lot of questions. They get too serious too quickly. They always seem to experience a tragedy. And more importantly, when you pause and think about what they're saying to you, many times the story doesn't make sense. It's too true to add up. So any of you out there think about online dating, just check what's happening from these informations. And if anyone you're talking to online fits any of these profiles, take heed, it may be a red flag. What about our children? A bypass. Staying online. Online grooming is a skill base, and something called the dark web. The dark web even goes below online grooming, where with the dark web, you'll hear and see and know things that are almost beyond the police chasing it. So it's a deeper part. I've mentioned it, but I'll tell you straight away. The dark web goes even deeper than what we have online. So online grooming is when someone uses the internet to trick you or force or pressure a young person into doing something sexual. For example, saying make a video or image of themselves. Someone who's grooming others online will sometimes build their trust before talking about doing anything sexual. It's not easy to know if someone's trying to groom you, but no matter what's happening, help is at hand. Bypass this. Okay. Online porn is the main area that a lot of children get involved in. And what the data states in 2019 is that 90%, a big figure, 90% of children between age 8 and 16 have watched online pornography at least once. Secondly, boys aged 12 to 17 are the biggest consumers of online porn. And finally, children first gain their first exposure to pornography at about age 11. The phones you give to your children, the iPads you give to your children, the computers you give to your children are now inviting them to be pulled into a world that an immature mind is dealing with mature minds. So you have your children, your grandchildren, your nieces and nephews. You need to be clear what your children are seeing online. The status says here, at age 8, at age 8 is when a child would have seen online pornography at least once, age 8. Why? Because in the olden days, the top shelf in our newsagents were full of porn magazines. That's now gone. Your child can have it in their hands day and night. So you as parents and as grandparents and uncles, aunts need to be clear on what you're doing. So if you're worried about your child being online and watching online porn, young people access porn for various reasons. Maybe about pleasure, just for a search, maybe shown by a friend, maybe curious about sex. It's easily accessible to them. There are some sexual arousal, pleasure, curiosity for a laugh, breaking the rules, be disgusted, freak out with their friends, or peer pressure and relationship issues. The science basically says that for some people, for young people, and to gentlemen in general, but for young people mainly, we're looking at porn makes the real world sex less enjoyable. It makes people fussy or less happy about the relationships and can cause body issues because the young people will see various images on the screen and wonder why their bodies isn't like that. Secondly, sometimes, last point is here, I'm going to last point straight away, is that sometimes for females especially, the males will see the women as sexual objects. And the idea of the pornography is to have a mind shift change. But when it comes to children, the idea is also to groom them, to utilize them in sexual behavior and sexual acts. Boy age 12 to 15 says, I've been watching a lot of porn recently. It's become a bit of an addiction. I think about sex all the time. Whenever I see a girl I fancy, I think about it, how it would be to sleep with them and do the stuff I've seen in porn films. I can't help it, even though I know it's inappropriate. He then become hooked, become addicted. He's age 12 to 15, NSPCC 2019. Let me say it quickly, well, legally, it isn't illegal for children and young people under 18 to watch porn, but it is against the law for anyone to show them porn or give them access to it. It is also illegal for anyone under 18 to share explicit images or films of themselves or the young person, even if it's shared with permission. So be clear that the distribution and the viewing of a picture of yourself or your child between school children and individuals is a criminal act. And that child can be picked up by the police and may be charged if they're age 18. But a lot of children, in order to win their love of a boy or a girl in school, will sometimes send stuff through their phones and go onto the web pages and talk to strangers and do amazing things that you think they would never ever do if they were with those people in real life. The last case of work I saw was a child aged 9 performing sexual acts for a man aged 25, which is only 9 years old. So tips to keeping you safe online: keep personal information professional and limited, keep privacy settings on, practice safe browsing, make sure your internet connection is secure, use a virtual protection and network connection, be careful what you download, choose strong passwords, make online purchases from secure sites, be careful what you post. I'm going quickly. What you write on the web page today may come and haunt you tomorrow. As a man in America, 2019, was going for a place in politics in his local states. The opposing parties to this young man, aged 19, found internet information about his background, of pictures of him, and also things he's written about other individuals. It crashed his whole life and took away his political career. So I'm saying to you, be careful what you write. It may come and haunt you and haunt your children and impede their education and their career opportunities. Be careful also who you meet online, because the picture of the person you see does not mean that it's the person. And finally, keep your antivirus program up to date. Yes, protect your children, talk to your children, harbor your children, take the phone for children if needs be. I would also say to you, might sound a bit harsh now, but a child aged 5 and 6 really has no need for a telephone at that age. But what you do by giving into the child's wishes and feelings, you may open a web of deceit and danger to that child. So take control of it online, use it legally and sensibly to ensure it helps you and others to benefit and develop appropriately. Thank you for listening. I have more to say, but I'm conscious of my time. I want to go into much more deeper depths, but I'm going to stop here. And thank you all for your time for that whistle stop tour about the opportunities and the threats from the online world we're living in. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mark, for that whistle stop tour of some of the online issues. Maybe we can just deal with a few questions with you. Maybe that we can explore a few things a little more deeply. By all means, if you have questions, please use the chat, and we can definitely address some of those. Can I just deal with this thing about opportunities first? Because I think maybe when we think about the internet, we are naturally drawn to thinking of it having dangers, and it does, and you've outlined that. Thinking in terms of us as individuals and as a church, are there some opportunities that the internet, you spoke about entrepreneurs and so forth, are there some opportunities that maybe we could take advantage of? We'll go on and talk about the negatives shortly, but do you think there are some opportunities that maybe we as God-driven people, there's some opportunities for us to use the internet better?
Oh, most definitely. When you think about it, even the lockdown situation that we're facing now, that we're coming out of, has given us an opportunity to spread the gospel across the world in an unbelievable fashion. You can now sit at home or sit in your room or sit anywhere, speak about God on YouTube or any platform, and that information will go across the world. So in Wolverhampton now, for example, we have people viewing in from Zambia, America, Jamaica. Where else we go to?
Spain.
Yeah, those three countries, definitely those three countries. There's actually more than that on a regular basis. Now, when the Bible says that when the gospel is preached to all the world, then shall the end come. Now we're seeing that happening, because from your own living room, you can preach the gospel. It goes across the whole world, and people who you never ever have had a chance to meet can now obtain the gospel of Jesus Christ. So the church needs to embrace this avenue. It's a fantastic avenue for us to spread God's word, spread it out, and to meet people. For example, very quickly, met a lady, had a phone call from a woman a few months ago, said, "Who are you?" I'm Mark Palmer. I got your name from somebody else. We chatted for a while, not an Adventist, but a Christian. Her and I now study every Thursday evening through WhatsApp video calls. I was studied that way. So that came out of God's blue, because of the World Wide Web and the opportunities. So you can sit in your house and do a Bible study with somebody living in China, and you're in England. It's vast opportunities. Church, embrace it.
Okay. So some opportunities there. I'm going to deal with all the questions that are coming through the chat. Yeah. So in no particular order. You spoke, Mark, a little bit about animation. And the questioner is saying that animation can appear harmless, but could there be hidden dangers in terms of children and ourselves viewing animation? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. And animation is an interesting one. You'll find more and more now, if you dig further into the kind of content of illegal content, animation has got within it sexual connotations, statements. Some of the games, some of the games, you have like the GTA, the Grand Theft Auto and so forth, talks about prostitution. And the children are sitting, playing these games, for example, I interest gaming, playing these games and thinking, no big deal of it. But what's happening in the child's mind? You're actually desensitizing the child's mind because animation, and because it's just a game. But the whole purpose of the game or the animation is to change that child's mind's viewpoint of sex and illegal behavior. So it has its dangers, and there's a lot of stuff out there that we've had to view with work and so forth, where we see some animation that really it's 18 hardcore plus stuff. But children will think because it's not real, it's a cartoon activity. They play it down, when in fact the idea is to pull that child in to a different world.
But come on, Mark, be reasonable now. It's just a game, right? It's just a game, and you know we have children who love this game. You can't take the game off the child, surely.
I'll give you an example of that. You have to take it off a child because we work with a number of children, and we see those children who are watching the parents will buy games for children, and child age 10. And what happened? It was on the box for 18 plus only, but the parents still buy for child age 10. And that child is being fed into a world of, as someone mentioned, about violence, inappropriate behavior, inappropriate language. And what you're doing, you're desensitizing the child in a very subtle way. And some parents don't see that because he wants Grand Theft Auto, or what was the other one we had to play recently, watch recently? It's GTA. They'll say no problem at all, but the issue about pornography, there's violence inside there. And what happens, you're now changing the mindset. And by changing the mindset cognitively, you are there changing the attitude. And by changing the attitude, you change the behavior. Children don't think to actually talk to a girl and call her the wrong word, or to fight and so forth. It's what they thrill to do. What is it? By beholding, you become changed. It's a fact.
Okay.
Animations and certain games.
So you're saying that the parents have a particular responsibility in terms of monitoring and gatekeeping that activity. Now,
most definitely.
Can I ask you another question that's linked to that then? If a child is being desensitized and whatever, by whatever they're doing online, what are some of the signs that you may see that would give you an indication that maybe something is changing in that child?
If that child, desensitization is a very skillful program. It's basically a kind of brainwashing. It's a brainwashing situation going in a nutshell. So if that child's behavior, language changes, if that child isolates him and herself away from the family, when at one time he was very much involved for the family, if that child is in the middle of the night on his or her phone, and that child's attitude is changing towards you, if that child maybe has no pocket money when they used to have pocket money, or has too much money now to buy certain things, there's something changing in your child that you're aware of. And these are some of the indicators that something is happening in that child. And as a parent, grandparent, or guardian, at that stage, you need to step in and make inquiries and ensure that child isn't being pulled by other individuals for illegal purposes.
Okay. So this behavior you're talking about, could it be, there's a question here, could it be described as online and the internet, could that be an addiction?
Anything has the possibility of being an addiction. Everything can be an addiction. You'll find a lot of children, and some adults as well, who will sit for hours and hours and hours on end playing PS5, PS4, Xbox, to the point where some children, here's addiction, some children will wet themselves and basically poo and sit in their excrement and in their urine because they can't afford to let go of the Fortnite, because it's an important part of the game. They're in a point where they're winning, and they'll sit and they'll poo themselves and wee themselves because they cannot leave the game. Once children come to that point where they're thinking about gaming all the time, they're using bodily fluids and sitting and playing the game still, you know that your child has got a serious, serious problem. And as a parent and as leaders, you have to step in and help that child break that addiction as fast as possible.
Okay. I'm staying with the theme, right? Because there's a few questions coming in. I can maybe deal with these quickly with you. Is there an appropriate age, the question asks, for a child to be exposed to the internet?
I wouldn't say the appropriate age. It's what they're watching. So if you're supervising that child, supervising that child on a simple child's game, an educational game. We as parents, you've got YouTube, for example, and you have a various Christian stuff in there for young kids. That is fine. But this is about what you're allowing the child to see. And even when it's not explicit, you'll be aware that you're dealing with an immature mind in a mature world. An immature mind in a mature world doesn't work very well. So when parents say to me at work, and we go for sessions and therapy sessions and so forth, oh, well, it doesn't matter. All his friends have got this 18 game, whatever it may be. And I say, well, the child's age 7 or 8, is going to be unhappy and depressed and left out of it in the peer group? I said, well, good. Let him be left out of the peer group, because it's not right for his mind at that young age to be watching that. And the box says it's for 18 plus and older. He is 7 years old. So there's no age range per se. There's some clear legal parameters of what kids can watch at a certain time, with films and everything else. But as parents and guardians, as leaders of the church, you be clear that is what my child's watching, is it right for that mind at this young age?
Okay, so you've not gone down the age line. How about this one then? How long before bedtime should we encourage our children to put electronic devices away?
Wow, that's a big question. I mean, for me, it means things like gaming machines and internet and so forth.
Well, internet in general.
I'd be winding that child down at least 1 hour before bed, at least an hour before bed, 1 hour before bed, and winding that mind down. It may also depend upon what the child's watching on the internet before bedtime as well, because if he or she is reading something that's educational and edifying, I would say wind things down is out before bed, wind it down. That's my personal opinion.
Okay.
Prescriptive.
Okay. The questions are coming in on the same theme. So we're with children, and I take your point, Mark, that you're saying that this is not just a child issue, right? It applies to adults as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's another question. What about a family that uses online games as part of their family social time? Is that good or bad?
It depends on what they're watching.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting down online as a family and playing a quiz game or watching a movie together, no problem at all if the content that you're watching is the main thing that you're thinking about. What are you watching as a family? And we're hoping that the family, the heads of the family, the mother, the father, uncle, grandparents, will be responsible enough to take charge of what's being watched. But what happens sometimes is that it's the child who dictates. And because for a peaceful lifestyle, and because a child has trashed the house tonight, you may give in to the child. And I'm saying is, take charge of your household and take charge of what happens on that screen. It's down to you. But watching a general, easygoing film, playing games on the internet as a family, that's a good thing.
Okay. And I can see some support for what you say, Mark, in the chat, that there's a comment here that children don't even eat when they're hungry, when they're engaged in games. Dr. Mwimbi is saying an hour before sleep time, whatever the subject, for all ages, is good practice. So we're agreeing with that.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot, though, for some of our parents to deal with, particularly those who are not tech savvy. What advice could you give to parents who may be thinking, this all makes sense, but I just don't understand this? Is there more, maybe as a church, we could do to try and help with this difficult task that we've got?
I think as a church, because we're now using the internet more and more, I'm in my room now, and I worked from home twice a week, and most time I'm in this room here doing my work and so forth. So I think as a church, we have a duty of care to our members and the community at large to make them aware of this opportunity, but also threat. We see a lot of threat with children I work with on a regular basis. We see what happens and devastation in the homes on a regular basis. So as a church, we need to be putting this out there and protecting the community and protecting church by talking about it, inviting the community to seminars, giving them examples of what can be done properly, the dangers, and giving them a clear message about if this thing has a positive, but also has a negative, That's our duty. That's what we're called to do, not only to preach, but to serve the various needs of our community. And this is one area we can do well, because parents are struggling with this in their homes right now, and not church members, and they are struggling quite badly.
Okay, well, on the issue of struggle, maybe a quick response to this one. How could you assist a parent who's finding that their children are very secretive in nature about the use of their gadgets? Maybe there's issues of anger, rebellion. What advice would you give to any of our parents who might be listening who are struggling because of that kind of responses from their children?
A lot of parents have been paralyzed because there's a fear of the children's response. So we have cases where the children will trash the house, trash the bedroom, trash the bathroom. Trash the house completely, because the power they hold, and in cases have been given over time by the parents. Well, I say to such parents, seek advice from other people in the church or people in their local authority or the health authority. Look at information on web pages for advice and guidance. Seek people who can support you in dealing with the anger and the negative behavior you may face, where you now want to put your foot down and hold that child's situation. Because all the child will see is you spoiling the fun. What you're seeing is this child's lifestyle going the wrong way. So as parents, that's your first calling to do that. So it's seeking advice from anybody in your church, local authority, in your local community who can help you and give you some advice. I'm going to say now, it's probably harsh now, but I'm going to say this to you all now. In a rodeo, the cowboy who stays on the horse controls the horse. And as parents, it's what called rodeo theory. You have to stay on the horse. It may rock and jump up and down, but long term, you may help the situation because the child's kicking against you. Remember, it's an immature mind who all he's seeing or she's seeing is that I want my game, but he can't see or she can't see the long-term impact of staying in that game. You're gonna have some battles as parents, but seek help and advice from other individuals around you in addressing that battle you're gonna face. I'd also say to you, one parent has done recently, she has complete checks on her phone. So whatever happens on her child phone, happens on her phone. She can lock the phone down, which locks down the child's phone at the same time as well. She can lock the iPad down because she has controls over that. So get the appropriate software to control the tool you're using. Again, you might find yourself at a difficulty from your children who are going to push back in various ways, but it's about a long-term gain for a short-term loss.
Okay, so we're pretty much out of time, Leroy, I take it. Mark, I've got a little stream of questions for you. And I know this is going to be really difficult for you in this last minute because I know I talk a lot, but you out-talk me, right? Everyone online today knows this. Yeah, it's true. So you can only go yes or no to these questions, all right?
Okay.
Last series of questions, all right. So the internet is too difficult and too dangerous a place. Should we just throw it out?
No.
We're talking about issues that surely these issues that you've raised about, addiction, depression, and all the kind of stuff that happens, surely those are not relevant to churchgoers. Are they relevant only to non-churchgoers?
If you're in the world, it's relevant to you. The church is in the world, it's relevant to the church. And it's more relevant to the church than you realize. And I give you, go to Covenant Eyes, Covenant Eyes, go to a webpage called Covenant Eyes, a Christian organization looking at online porn and so forth. Read that about pastors, elders who have got addiction to pornography in the church overall. So it's relevant to the church. Do not depart yourself from what is being said today.
So that was a yes or a no. Was that you? Was that your yes or no to that question?
That was me saying it's relevant to the church. Yes, it is.
Okay, in closing, let's go back to the Word of God. Yeah. Does the Word of God have answers to the issues that you've raised tonight. And you can go slightly longer than yes.
Okay. For me, the word of God is found in Philippians 4 verse 8, well-known text in Philippians 4 verse 8. Let me read it properly for you. It says basically, Philippians 4 verse 8 says, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are good report, if there be any virtue, if there be any praise, think on these things. Use that as your barometer for when your child and yourself, because remember, you too can be addicted to the pornography and all kind of things as well, as adults as well. Yes, think on these things. If the thing that your child is seeing, that you're watching, doesn't meet Philippians 4 verse 8, maybe God is saying to you, get rid of it, because it's your salvation is at risk.
Mark, thank you very much. I'm sure everyone's been kind of really enamored by what you're saying. Clearly the challenges are there. There are opportunities and there are threats. There will always be a God. Leroy, handing back to you now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Clyde. I'd just like to say a big thank you to Mark for your involvement this evening, your presentation and your insight. I know that that's coloured by the work that you're involved in. So we thank you once again for sharing some of your experience with us, and also to Clive for moderating and keeping things flowing tonight. So a big thank you to you both. I'd encourage you all also to again tune in next Monday, where we will be looking at dealing with grief. Our presenter next week is Liebert Hughes, who's a family life instructor, and he has many years' experience as a counsellor, and grief counselling has formed an integral part of his work. So please tell your friends, work colleagues, your families to join us next Monday at 7 p.m. So thank you once again for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we hope to see you again next Monday evening. Bye for now.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless you all. God bless.